I think part of the
Yes.
reason why I could still relate to this drama, even though it's like set in high school, is that I wasn't watching like 30-year-olds try to play as 16-year-olds. Like,
Mm-hmm.
most of the cast is 18, 19, and believable as like the age of the characters they were
Yeah,
supposed to
15,
play.
16. Yeah.
So I really appreciate that. I didn't have to watch a man with 5 o'clock shadow attempting to be like a 15-year-old.
Hey guys, welcome to LoveCast, the Voice Love podcast. I'm your host Pixie, and with me are Kayla and Alexa.
Hello.
Hey.
Yeah, so today we are all excited and we're all matching in our excitedness.
Unintentionally.
We're harnessing our youthful
we
energy.
did not plan to look like this, okay? For everyone listening to the podcast on audio only, like we're all wearing like striped t-shirts,
Like bright stripe colors, yeah.
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 And it just kind of worked out that way.
Yeah, I didn't do it consciously at all.
Yeah. See,
was
Kayla
just-
and I did it consciously, but we didn't plan to do
do
it
it,
consciously.
or-
So it
yeah,
just kind of worked out that
Yeah.
way.
It was just the
We
vibe.
are connected on like a mind plane. So if people didn't get that one, we are talking about Heartstopper today. Because, yes, we have a lot to say. A lot. But first, we're gonna do our tea time. And since we're talking about Heartstopper, we're taking on a topic that was widely discussed on Twitter today. And that is a Tumblr post from Alice Oseman, the author, got dug up, where she, or they are. She
uses she, they pronouns, so either or, but interchangeably. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's good.
So Alice said that when she answered a question, yup, no explicit sex in this comic. The characters are teenagers, so it's just not appropriate. And even if they weren't, I'd have no interest in drawing that. I wouldn't describe this comic as yaoi or even BL. They're genres of comic that tend to fetishize and eroticize queer men in a really bad way. This comic is just a romance between two boys and a coming-of-age story.
Yeah. So BL,
So this
BL
post
Twitter
is
got a hold
from
of that.
2017.
Yeah.
Let's just say that first. So
Yeah,
we
I
don't
think
know
that's the
if
big
her
thing.
thoughts are the same now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I want to say, first of all, the first part of the answer I think is totally valid. Like, they don't have to feel comfortable drawing underage kids having sex and depicting that in their comic. I don't think most people had an issue with that. I think there might have been some comment here and there, but for the most part, it's the comment about the yaoi and the BL, and how they call that like fetishizing art of queer men. And I think the big thing is it is a post from Tumblr in 2017, and I think there was another post going around that was kind of in a similar vein from 2019, but both posts are 3 and 5 years old respectively, so I think it's hard to gauge if Alice would still hold these opinions today, and I think that's the biggest thing I'm taking into consideration when reading everyone's opinions about the situation.
Yeah, and I also think that before there weren't a lot of proper discussions around this. Like there were two sides, people who consumed it and people who thought it was bad.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of nuances now, that a lot of people explaining why it's not fetishizing and it's not, you need it to normalize. And there's been a really good evolution of yaoi with more inclusion and everything. So I do understand why people are mad. And rightfully so, but I also think that we shouldn't hold her accountable for something she said 5 years ago. If she doubles down on it, I think like educating her about it would be the proper way to go. But this isn't like a area where you should cancel someone or make their life miserable for something like that. It just makes them what do you call it? Like, it just makes them double down on their opinions if people attack them for this. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you can calmly explain it, that's fine. But yeah.
I kind of feel like the post itself, I really wish that we could see what she was responding to. Because I haven't seen the actual question that she was asked anywhere. I feel like the main thing in what she said that maybe could have been worded differently is the eroticized part. Because when you start to get into that kind of territory, it sounds like you're almost like demonizing sex in queer media or making it seem abnormal. And like, I can't really speak for Yaoi, but not every BL series obviously has explicit content or is there like objectification of gay men. I feel like a lot of them follow the same archetype as Heartstopper. But again, it's like, this comment was made in 2017, where this is the part where I kind of understand what she's saying, is because at that time, you know, if you were a veteran BL fan, that like every series was rife with like harmful stereotypes and tropes about gay people. And so like, that's the part that I see where she's coming from. I think it maybe could have been worded differently though. And kind of in the same way that like, she may be generalizing BL, I feel like people are also generalizing in their reaction to her response or what she said, because they're kind of making it out to be like BL is some utopia for LGBTQ plus individuals, and it's just not. So I'm like, there are so many layers to it. I feel like it's not black and white. But also, I saw there was like a layer of people calling it racist. And I'm convinced that everyone who said that is not Asian. Because I feel like they would be aware of the harmful stereotypes in BL and how they're like directly influenced by the society they come from. And so like how Confucianism influences a lot of the misogyny we see in BLs, and colonialism influences a lot of the beauty standards. It's just like, there's so many layers to it. And honestly, when I read Alice's comment, I didn't read it as a comparison that she was making between the two. I think she's like in the ballpark of like, she's on the surface of being right, but maybe is not completely well informed.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is ignorance. Like, she just doesn't understand what the BL genre actually is. She doesn't understand the history of it or anything. She just knows what she's seen and what maybe people have told her or something like that. And there's so much more to it. And
And I also want to point out that this original comic was made back in 2017 before Heartstopper had been published officially. Like, this was when she was still posting it like for free as a webcomic on like Tumblr, which is where the webcomic was originally posted. So I think, you know, obviously her not being a public figure at the time, or as public of a figure at the time, does not make it okay for, you know, her to go off making like comments that might be not as well informed as they could be. But when you're answering a question on tumblr.com, I say this as a veteran Tumblr user, you know, if someone sends you a question to your ask box, you're not going to necessarily go do a whole history's worth of research before you type up your answer. So I'm guessing that they were going on, like we said, what she may know about Yaoi, which may be uninformed, especially back in 2017. So I don't know, I think just pulling this one answer out of context and kind of using it to define her now and her work now is a little bit unfair to her. Not a little bit, I think that's very unfair to her, actually. Like, if she comes back around and says, yeah, I still stand by what I said in 2017, then that's a different story, and maybe that's time to step in and be like, hey, this is what yaoi and BL actually is and what it actually does. But I think the fact that this just got like taken out of context and blown up is kind of unfair to them.
Yeah, I kind of feel too that it sounds like it was an answer that was sort of reactionary for if someone is getting a lot of questions about sex in their
like why they didn't include sex in Heartstopper, basically.
Yeah, it kind of sounded like that she's probably had a lot of questions about intimacy and sex in her comics, and
I wouldn't be
that
surprised.
might be some of the reason why she answered like that. I still think that we should give her a chance.
Yeah.
And not judge for something that was said many years ago. Yeah,
it's 2022, and I'm sure, I bet they don't even remember answering that question, a question from 5 years
Probably
ago.
not.
So, if they go around seeing this flying around social media now, I'm sure they'd have very different thoughts about the subject, and I don't know. Yeah, it just seems like
And how many, artists or creators have you seen that are as inclusive as she is?
Yeah.
Just with race, with sexuality, with everything. I have never seen a work being so inclusive, because artists are really afraid of going outside their own race, especially because they don't want to presume other people's experiences, and you can get a little stereotypical if you don't really know things, right?
Yeah.
So I think she does look like she really takes a lot of care with understanding different people and put that into her work. So I mean, obviously, if she comes out and doubles down on this and just doesn't want to listen to anyone explaining it nicely, I'll be a little more harsh about it. But as it is now, I think it's fine.
Yeah. Agree.
Yeah.
Nothing to go to war about.
Yeah, and it's really frustrating because I made the mistake of reading through the replies on the post, and there's so many people saying oh, I was gonna watch Heartstopper and now I'm double thinking it, or I was gonna read the webcomic and now I don't know if I will, and I'm just it's so frustrating because it's so good, and I hate that this post has been taken and is turning people away from reading the webcomic or starting the series, because it really, really is something special. And it kind of sucks that that comment is not keeping people from experiencing what it is.
Yeah.
It's everyone's own choice to make, but
Yeah. I'm guessing everyone who's listening to this has probably watched Heartstopper. If you haven't, pause this and go and watch it.
And it's that warning.
Yeah. And there will be spoilers, just so you know.
Yeah, go forward knowing, be aware. If you're in the middle of watching it, or if you plan to still watch it and you don't want to be spoiled, go finish it first and then be sure to come back.
Yeah. So for the story in the show, the overall story in the show compared, okay, there is the comic, but we're looking at the show right now. How I know Alice was involved in the screenplay of everything, and they did change a lot from the comic. For me, it felt like she sort of upgraded on her own story with the challenges she had. They can't go to Paris for the first season.
Yeah, maybe that's a second season thing. once they have the more Netflix budget.
Yeah. So she obviously she had to make sure that they were in where did they film it? London? In England?
I think so. Yeah, I think it was in London.
Yeah. So they had to rewrite something to make it fit. And I think I really liked it. I really liked it. It does feel like it feels like when you have this story you wrote a lot of years ago, and you're going back to it and sort of making it better, rewriting.
Yeah,
That's
it's kind of like an
what it felt
opportunity
like for
to
me.
refresh it in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been I started reading the webcomic after I binged the series last weekend. So I'm like a little over halfway through the webcomic now, and I think despite some of the changes that were made, it was still so spot on in a way that like works. Like so much of the dialogue was taken word for word from the webcomic, and
Yeah.
I don't think it's often that you can take word for word dialogue from a novel or whatever and have it actually transfer over well into like a televised format. So I thought it was really cool how like the lines still felt natural even though they were taken like directly from the webcomic. And I think that a lot of it is due to Alice being involved in the screenplay, and also I think you can tell that the people involved in the production understood the age of the characters and the age range they were working with, and it didn't feel like a bunch of like 50-year-olds were trying to write dialogue that was relatable to Gen Z. Like it felt natural and it came off natural, and I think that's why like it works so well to take so much that they did take directly from the webcomic.
So I really like, there aren't a lot of episodes. There are 8 episodes in total. But I didn't feel like we were missing anything or that it was drawn out. It kind of felt the perfect pace for the story each episode.
Agreed.
I was surprised when like the show came out, and I knew it was only going to be 8 episodes, but when I first started watching it, I wasn't aware that they were only going to be like 25 to 30 minutes. So I was I was surprised going in because I'm used to Netflix originals having like 40 or 50-minute episodes, and that was kind of the expectation that I had with it. So I didn't know how they were going to be able to like make the story flow in 8 like 25-minute episodes, but I think it did go well. There was a lot in every episode. Like thinking about the first episode and how much went down in that episode, from like Charlie first meeting Nick all the way to like the whole Ben Hope situation and Nick stepping in there. It's a lot of time to cover, but I think the pacing of it was done well so that it didn't feel choppy and things kind of moved smoothly across the episodes despite how short they were.
What did you guys think about the addition of Imogen, because she isn't in the comics?
I thought she was cute.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I thought so too.
Character.
I know a lot. I saw a lot of people online that were saying that it felt unnecessary that she was there. It sort of ruined some of Nick's personality that he built up in the comic. It just didn't make sense that, but I do see what they were trying for. They were trying to show his struggle, but at the same time, he never showed any interest for Imogen at all. It wasn't a part of his like bi awakening.
Yeah.
So,
I saw her kind of as like a device to emphasize a lot of the pressure that Nick felt when it came to like still being relatable with his rugby friends, and kind of his internal struggle with realizing he's queer means, can I still be a part of this friend group and fit in with this thing that's been my personality for so long. I think particularly the point where like she asked him out on a date and he kind of felt pressured into saying yes. I kind of saw her more as like, not saying that she was like device in that she was like not a good character, but like the presence of her character I kind of saw as a device to emphasize that aspect of him being conflicted about leaving behind the life he's always known, kind of thing. Like they never, like you said, there was never any confusion about whether or not he had romantic feelings for her. So I think it was more just like him trying to be ready to take that step to risk losing the friend group he's always known for Charlie and, you know, the feelings that he's developed and that kind of thing. If that makes sense.
I kind of feel like she took the place of Harry, because in the comic, Harry is supposed to be a really, really good friend of Nick. And Nick has a problem, like, leaving Harry and the gang behind. In the series, Harry is just an asshole. It's like, yeah, why are you even there? God damn it. You don't get that relationship to Harry in the series as you do in the webcomic. You can't really see Nick being friends with him.
With the rugby lads. Yeah. The rugby lads.
I kind of feel like Imogen is the glue between Nick and the rugby guys in the series. Yeah. Yeah,
so I like Imogen herself as a character. I like, she didn't do anything wrong. Like, no. I've seen so many people like so many comments about like, well, you know, the hating Imogen comments because she's the girl who's like coming in between the relationship, but like her crush was not unwarranted at all. Like, you know, she didn't push it on him. You know, she had every right to ask him on a date. He said yes, that was on him. And then when he came back and explained what was going on, she was like completely understanding of it. So like, I don't know, I think people just wanted to hate her because she was there, and it kind of sucks because I don't think her character did anything wrong in the like at all. Yeah, honestly, when she found out, she's looked really supportive of the whole thing. I mean, yeah, it was a little bit unfair for people to like redirect their sort of hatred towards her. I mean, you should, like, Harry was a lot worse if you're gonna hate on someone. Everyone, we all hate Harry here. Harry hate club. Ben Hope hate club. Can I just mention, like, Harry's acting was horrendous. It's the one bad thing I have to say here. Like, his acting was fucking horrible. The actor who plays Harry, he was supposed to be this like wannabe posh kid, but it was so bad. Like, the timing was so bad on his lines. He felt like you were watching like this teenage school play where the kids didn't have any like acting, and especially when you see him acting with the kid, because Kit is a great actor, right? And you see those two next to each other talking to each other. It's so, you get so aware of how bad this actor is. It brings you out of the whole thing. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. His lines definitely, like, the timing of him and the delivery on them definitely took me out sometimes. I was like, oh, okay. I was kind of like, I sort of feel like he probably had a bigger role in the show, but they cut him out of most of it because it was horrible.
That's a conspiracy. He just like reminded me of like a Fortnite Among Us, like pee-pee poo-poo type character. Like, I couldn't take him seriously.
I kind of like want to figure out if he was like the kid of someone on the set, just like got the role because it's a favor to someone, or his parents are rich or anything. Like, with the amount of care they took in the casting in this show, I do not understand how this happened. Can they please explain this to me? It'll be interesting to see how it works with Harry in the later seasons, where he kind of like has a not redemption arc, because, you know, they never really like become besties again, but like Harry does kind of come around and apologize for being a piece of shit in the earlier like books, and I'm curious to see how they'll work that into the series if there's a second two, and how that actor will do with playing any lines that aren't just him like trying to insult people. Heather is counting with like, what if he acted that way as a way to show the character was putting on a bravado, to hide something. But I even if so, it's just the delivery of the lines are so off. It's I can't even give them the benefit of the doubt here. It's so bad.
I definitely saw like the bravado and the way he carried himself, like his stance, and like he
Like
had
the
this
awkward.
Oh my
yeah,
gosh,
the way of like bro way of moving. Like I definitely
Yeah.
saw the bravado there, like him trying to like puff himself up type thing. And I think that was like the physical acting was like fit the character the way the character was supposed to be. Like, but the line delivery was not the best.
It just looked like he was trying to copy someone who actually is a good actor. It didn't look like.
Oh my gosh.
I know I'm being brutal here, but and I'm very sorry to that actor, but I'm sorry. I think you need to reevaluate your life choices.
Oh my. Toby
No,
doesn't
but he's
ever.
probably a really nice guy. I'm not. He's probably really, really nice, and I'm being a bitch. But dude, it was so bad.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, he's probably a really nice guy.
I think maybe I was too caught up on just like hating his character that maybe I didn't notice how awkward some of the lines were. Like anytime he opened his mouth, I was just like, "You're stupid, shut up," and like kind of didn't pay attention to him.
Yeah,
So
it's valid.
I don't know if I picked up on that much awkwardness, but I don't not believe you. I'm sure it. I don't know. Maybe I'd have to watch for a third time and really focus on Harry.
Just
No,
for
but it's
watch
like
it third time
in the
for
comic,
Harry.
he does have like this redemption arc, and I it's sort of they put Imogen in there, but they also put Ben, in situation where originally it was Harry in the comic that said those things, or like Ben is a lot more in the series than he was in the comic.
Yeah,
like a lot.
In the
more.
comic, he basically like disappears after the whole scene in the first episode, pretty much. So they made him more.
After the scene at the party, he just gone.
Yeah, but they kept him around, and I
him.
mean, Sebastian, the actor who plays Ben, like did a great job. Like he embodied the second he was on screen,
the grossness.
Like there's so many like reactions and stuff that I watched for like the first scene he showed up. Everyone's like, yeah, he already looks like a shitty dude. Like I just can't even like the way he carried himself and his facial expressions. It was just like he did such a great job of embodying how horrible Ben was, and like and Sebastian in real life is like such a ray of sunshine, and he hates Ben Hope so much. It's so funny. So just like that definitely speaks to he did a great job.
That's what you call good acting.
Basically, leave the poor kid alone.
Sorry.
Oh my gosh.
No, I think like the casting for this show was like, if we go away from what I didn't like, other than that, like the casting was amazing. And the fact that we heard that they casted the people they casted had to be like aligned with their character. So they cast like Isaac, he's Ace. And which was confirmed by Alice.
Yeah,
and you have Joe's gay, and Kit,
Elle,
bi, Elle is trans.
And
yeah,
even from like moving beyond sexuality, like into the race factor. Like I was watching an interview, and Will, the actor who plays Tal, was like they specifically put in the casting call someone who was Asian or half Asian. So, you know, I appreciate that they really made effort to make these characters as true to the way Alice wrote them, and keep the same level of diversity that had already been included in the webcomics. And no one got recasted as light skin who wasn't, who was dark skin in the comics or things like that. So I really appreciate that they put in that effort to make it as true to the comics as they could.
Yeah, and it really, like, for everyone that read the comic, it makes it even better because you get this nostalgic feeling and just like good feeling that they actually care what they're putting out there, and seeing them on screen, it's like that's exactly how I imagined they looked. Like, even if you like looked at them in the drawings, like they're the exact live
Joe
versions of these characters.
Yeah, Joe and Kit especially are just like,
oh my god,
literally, I never knew someone could look
it's
so
like
much like a
step
drawing.
right out of the comic. It's insane. And just
It's
like
really,
Kit has like this perfect golden retriever energy.
The energy, yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it was amazing casting, and like to know that, like, thinking, like, obviously Kit has acting experience, like he was in Rocket Man and other stuff, but like for Joe, this was his first professional acting gig. Like, I was just watching, can you tell I've been watching a lot of Heartstopper interviews? I was just watching an interview before this where he said like he'd done lessons and stuff at school and acted in some school productions and like local theater, but like this was his first professional job, and it was like an open casting call. And to think of like all the people that probably put in their audition tapes that they like managed to choose someone who was so perfect. Not only like obviously his physical features are perfect, but in the same way that Kit has that golden retriever energy, I think Joe has that like kind of more reserved like energy that Charlie really has, and it's just like so good.
Yeah, they are literally perfect for those roles.
Also, we have to give them a shout out for casting age appropriate actors, and like I think part of the reason why I could still relate to this drama, even though it's like set in high school, is that I wasn't watching like 30-year-olds try to play 16-year-olds. Like most of the cast is 18, 19 and believable as like the age of the characters they were supposed
15,
to play.
16.
So I really appreciate that, you know, I didn't have to watch a man with 5 o'clock shadow attempting to be like a 15-year-old, you know?
Yeah, and I really like that there's, usually when you see a lot of like, these teenage shows, there's like a lot of big, burly men and thin, like perfect women, and everyone looks like a supermodel, and here like in Heartstopper you have like one skinny and like Kit, he has some chesticles on him.
Chesticles.
But I saw a TikTok of someone who has like severe dysphoria, body dysphoria, and they like tape their chest to be flat, and they said that seeing him like being a little like not
someone who's
completely
thicker
flat helped
actually
with
have
their
like
own
a chest
dysphoria, because you don't need to be completely flat. That's not normal.
If you're like a thicker person, male or female, like you're going to have like more chest action going on. So like it was all very natural and like all very authentic for what a teenager would look like, you know?
Yeah, not all body types are like lean.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right? So I really appreciate, and like Tao, who is supposed to be like awkward and tall and lean, like he was perfectly casted too. And yeah,
I thought they all meshed really well together, and they just made like a very believable friend group.
they did.
Yeah.
I had a comment in my notes where I wrote while I was watching first or second episode that no, it's probably the first. Like it felt like a modern Lizzie McGuire.
Ooh, okay. I can see that comparison. Man,
you know, I got that feeling when Nick comes over and he's asking him to join the rugby team, and he kind of gets all like
with the animations and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I can see it. Yeah, the animations were so yeah. To like the little Lizzie McGuire cartoon that would always come out and be involved. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole comic strip and like incorporation of doodles, I feel like kept it really true to the comics, and it kept like that playful kind of youthful tone. It was like such a nice touch.
Yeah, I agree. I love the inclusion of the doodles, and like I even though I hadn't read the webcomic before, I watched the series, and obviously that's like a huge homage, I don't know how you pronounce that word, to the comic. I feel like even as someone who hadn't read the webcomic at that point, I could still appreciate like what they added to the scenes and kind of emphasizing like using the leaves and stuff to emphasize like the fluttering, the butterflies they were getting and all that kind of stuff. Like
especially like the fingers touching and the sparks.
Oh, the sparks. Yeah, that was a really good one.
Oh my god.
Christ. Yeah.
It was really like, because I think that often like the BLs that we are used to, often they use like sound and stuff to make things comical to the extreme. I really hate all the sound effects. They overuse them too much. But with this, with the added like graphics in there, I think it was really nice. I was a little in the beginning, in the first episode, it was a little much, just the beginning, like with changing with the frames.
Oh, like when it was like the panels.
Yeah,
like it was supposed to be like the comic panels.
Yeah, that was really jarring for me, because it started off so quickly. It came sort of
just like
unexpected.
Threw you into it.
Yeah. So, but except for that, it was really natural and felt really good to me. And
I think, go ahead, Pixie.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I feel like we have to talk about how they got Olivia Colman to play Nick's mom, and how they managed to keep that under wraps the whole time. And you, like, the first scene at the end of the first episode pops up, and you're like, wait, is that fucking Olivia Colman? Like, I just thought, like, that was just so cool that, like, obviously most of the time, I think they had purposely, for the casting, gone with, like, lesser known younger actors, but like to be able to pull someone like as big as Olivia Colman into the project, I think just really speaks to the impact and the way they kind of, when I was reading about it, they like kind of sent the project to her like not expecting anything, and she was like, yeah, like I can book off these couple days to film all these scenes with Nick and his mom, let's do it. So like I feel like it really kind of speaks to like how impactful the project is, that like Olivia fucking Colman wanted to be in Heartstopper, like, and she was in Heartstopper.
Yeah, and when I heard like the headmaster over the sound system,
yes,
I'm just like, is that Stephen Fry?
Yeah, it's so cool.
That was so unexpected. Like I love that they sort of got these two big stars to just join in.
Kind of just like round out a cast of like very young new actors, and to kind of have these like two big names in there too is really cool.
Yeah, and that they didn't use them to sort of try and hype things up from the beginning.
Yeah, dude. Like they didn't put it out there at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we just for a second talk about like the colors they used throughout the whole series, with the yellow and the blue, especially?
Yes.
There's a yellow and
it
blue.
literally reminded me of the Sunshine and Sunshine Protector meme.
Yes. That's truly what it is. I love the way they incorporated it, even into like the smallest details of like the umbrella from the rain scene was yellow and blue split down the middle. I'm like, I love this. Yes. I absolutely love this.
And I noticed that like his Charlie's bedroom, in the first scene where you see him in the bedroom, the bedding is yellow, but after he starts crushing on Nick, his bedroom like bedding becomes green, and his wall is green, and the green lighting with the drum set.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I think they definitely put a lot into the excuse me, like the color grading and the color themes across, like, there are so many shots of like Nick in the bisexual lighting, like even like the big one is like the party scene with Tara and Darcy, where like they had like the rainbow effects behind them when they were kissing, and then it would pan over to Nick and he was in like the blue and purple and pink. But there are so many other scenes where it was just like Nick in bisexual lighting, and I was like, you could not. I live for that shit. Like, it's so cliche, but like seeing the character who's questioning his sexuality in bisexual lighting, like, it's just so good.
Yeah, and when I was like rewatching this, I was like hyper aware of all the colors, and I kept noticing whenever there's like conflict or inner conflict for the characters, when Charlie goes to this party and he's sort of uncomfortable, he's in a maroon, like reddish maroon shirt. The same with Nick when he starts questioning his sexuality. They put him in red and pink.
You're right.
Yeah.
And I found
How did I not notice
so interesting. I was going through it. I was just like, holy shit. I really love like the attention to detail on this.
Yeah, I agree.
And oh, there was a line that they said like, bisexual people exist.
Yeah. Charlie threw that line in.
Oh my god.
I have loved the, like, it is so rare to have bisexual characters, period, that are like explicitly bisexual, especially coming from BL, where it's like a lot of the times the characters are either gay or they do the I only like you trope. So to have a show that like really capitalizes on the existence of a bisexual male character and him realizing his bisexuality, like, it was so good. Nothing has ever been more relatable than Nick rewatching Pirates of the Caribbean and realizing he was attracted to both Keira Knightley and Orlando Bloom. Like,
are you gay quiz?
The bisexual. Like, it's so relatable. Oh my god.
Oh my god. In general, I really love how they handle like Nick's coming out and just like coming out in general in the series. Like, I feel like it's more of a natural progression than some big announcement. And they even say that, like, I think it was Tara, she was like, I don't want this to be some big announcement.
Yeah.
But I feel like, especially with Nick, it was just so nice to see that, like, even in the scene where he's coming out to his mom, like, the focus of it isn't queer pain, which is like what we see so much in LGBT media, is the focus on queer pain.
Yeah.
So
this
good.
series is just like pure queer joy, and I think that's been a lot of the commentary around it and why it's been getting so much love from, like, especially older queer people who like didn't get media like this growing up, and like didn't get this experience in their own school year. So like to have a fresh school series that is just like queer people just like existing and being happy, and like having a basically fully queer friend group minus Tao that is just like they're happy together and they're all like happy in their identities, like, it is just so amazing to see.
Yeah, I think it really shows off how subtle homophobia happens. Like, people are often like shown these dramatic films and movies, like queer people having difficulties, like it's often very dramatic, and like obviously things like that happen too.
Yeah.
But the normal day homophobia that queer kids have to go through is a lot more subtle and just as painful.
Yeah,
and
like, someone commenting, you don't look like a lesbian on your Instagram post. Like, that shit happens. And it seems like it's not a big thing, but it's, like, real.
Yeah. And, you know, like, Harry, all his stupid comments, and Nick telling him, like, Harry, that's homophobic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just having a laugh with the lads.
Yeah, I'm just having a laugh.
It's just so, like, reminiscent. Like, I said when I did my Instagram live that I had no inkling that I was queer in high school. Like, looking back, I probably should have recognized some signs, but, like, I just did not. But even so, like, just the experience and the types of people that they had in the school, and the people like Harry, and the way the friend groups operated, and the inclusion of, like, stuff happening on social media and stuff, it just all felt so relevant to, like, my own school days. And I think that made you relate to the experience a lot more. Even if you're, like, a queer person who didn't have that experience in high school, or you're not a queer person, like, the high school vibes are always going to be relatable. And I think that can make you relate to the pain of the characters. Hey, Lovecasters! It is time for another podcast giveaway. This time we're very on brand with the theme of the episode and giving away a commissioned Heartstopper art print of the scene of your choice from the series. Law, who is a very talented artist and a close friend of the podcast, has graciously agreed to give away some Heartstopper art for one of our lucky viewers. Be sure to check out her shop and social links in the description to see some examples of her gorgeous art. Now, to enter, all you need to do is head to the comments on our Heartstopper deep dive over on YouTube and share your favorite scene from the Heartstopper series. And for an extra entry, head over to the giveaway post on Twitter and follow the instructions there. The giveaway is open worldwide and will close on Saturday, May 7th at 11:59 p.m. CDT, so be sure to get your entries in ASAP. Check out the video description for full details, and good luck!
Yeah, I mean, I can relate to like the love aspect of this. Like this plot, like with Charlie and Nick, it isn't like a inherently like queer thing. Like I can like see myself in that with the relationship or crushes I had with boys when I were in school. So it's relatable to me too, and it sort of shows off that like queer people are the same.
Have the normal experience, yeah.
It's not like an abnormal thing. It's just normal teenagers crushing, and it doesn't matter who the person they're in love with is. Like if it's a boy, girl, or none of those, like it doesn't matter. It's still
a teen experience.
Yeah.
And I think that's like that makes me think of how there have been some comments about like how cringy the romance is, and I'm like, that's just teenage romance. Like when you're a teenager and you're getting into your first relationships, like what do you have to base that off of? Rom-coms and shit that you've seen in movies and read online. So all the cringy shit does happen. So it's like, I feel like people being like, oh, this is so cringy. This is too cringy. Like, this isn't realistic. Were you not a teenager? Like, the cringy shit is what we live for.
My teenage romances were so much more cringer
it's
than
like
that
celebrating your, like, 5-day anniversary and, like, that kind of shit. Like, that's just, teenage romance is cringy. And that makes it realistic. And, like, to see, like, two queer teens get to portray a cheesy, cringy teenage romance, like, that has impact. And I think that's not a bad thing.
Dude, I saw someone comment on Twitter that Riverdale was better. And I'm just like,
no.
What? What is wrong with you?
I think the entire cast of Riverdale themselves would disagree with that. That if your own cast hates your show, I don't think you can call it like good media. I'm sorry, Riverdale, but like, I mean, that's certainly a thing you can say. It's definitely not true. Yeah. I mean, there are some, like, obviously everything's subjective. It's all your opinion, but like that's just not true. Period. Not true. I draw the line at saying Riverdale is better than Heartstopper.
Yeah, that just took me out. I that can't be serious. I was laughing. I didn't even bother writing anything. I'm just like,
that's
so
satire.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, I hope it was satire.
It has to be a joke. Like, no one can believe that. I'm sorry, but I mean, I got my boyfriend to watch the first episode. And he was like he laughed at some moments, appropriate moments to laugh at. Not that he was laughing at the gay romance. And after the first episode, he was just like, yeah, there's like nothing wrong with it, but I just can't get into like teenage romance. And I'm just like, fair.
That's fine.
That's fair. I mean, he doesn't like romance to begin with. So, but he wasn't like, he didn't feel like there was anything off with like the queer part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like a teenage romance, period. It's like no different than other teenage romances that exist out there. To All the Boys I've Loved Before and all that other kind of stuff you find on Netflix. Like, yeah, it's gonna be that level of cheesy, and I don't think that works for everyone. But I do think, you know, there's significance in having something that's that same level of cheesy, but featuring an almost entirely LGBTQ cast of characters, you know? Like, that's like, I was watching an analysis video the other day about like the queer joy aspect of Heartstopper, and how like in times like right now where we have like people pushing the Don't Say Gay bill, and there's a lot of stuff going on in the UK about like trans rights and things like that. So to have a series that is featuring like a trans character who is going to be featured in a romance with a cis-het man, and two queer characters who are happily in love and just like finding young teenage romance with little to no obstacles as of right now, like that in itself is kind of like a pushback of all the like don't say gay shit and the bigoted rhetoric that is going on. So like to have something like this that just exists right now in this day and age and have it become so popular is like a big FU in and of itself to the bigots kind of thing.
And can we give some credit to Tao as a character who gets bullied and called gay and doesn't react to that at all? Like he answers back to his bullies, but he doesn't acknowledge that he's been called gay because he doesn't take that as an insult.
Yeah.
Yes. I love Tao.
And that's
very
the
calculated
right way
with
to
his
do
comebacks
it.
too.
Yeah.
So funny.
So much fun.
I know there were some people who like did not, I wouldn't say they disliked Tao, but I think some people did find him annoying. I think one of the things that is different between the webcomic and the series as of right now, because I don't know, some of the stuff with Tao happened more in the Paris trip, and I don't know if they'll do that in season 2 of the series or what, but I think they didn't do a great job of explaining why Tao is so dead set on Charlie and Nick, like, not hanging out and stuff like that. And I think his backstory behind that and the guilt he feels towards Charlie and things like that are a lot better explained in the webcomic. So I'm hoping that they'll kind of flesh that out a bit more if they get a second season. But I did see some people kind of like, why is Tao so dead set on, like, you know, Charlie not being friends with Nick? And I think that wasn't as well explained in the series as of right now. But I don't know. I thought he was just a little shithead. And I think that was like what his character was meant to be. And he was endearing in that way.
Yeah, I mean, he's very reactive person. His personality is very reactive, and he doesn't think a lot about what he says. He just reacts. And I do that all the time. So I can relate to that so much. Just like without thinking, you're just reacting, and then you can regret what you're saying afterwards. So in the comics, when Tao... We heard that Tao accidentally outed
Charlie. He's the reason that Charlie gets
he's
outed.
The reason
basically,
Charlie's outed. Yeah, and while that was really brutal to hear, and I imagine for Charlie was probably really brutal. I really liked that they didn't put it into the series. I think with everything else happening, it would be too much.
Yeah. I can see that. I'm curious to see like what the timeline will be if they do a series 2, and like if that'll end up coming into play there. But I don't think it's a bad thing if they don't necessarily bring it in at this point, because I feel like the conflict that led to between Tao and Charlie we kind of got the equivalent of that after Tao got into the fight with Harry and was kind of like refusing to talk to Charlie for a couple days. So I don't think they necessarily need to bring that aspect into it. But I'm curious to see what they will do. I mean, I'm really excited to see season 2, because obviously that's when like we kind of get more Tao and Elle and like that slow burn coming to a head. But like I think that'll do more for Tao's character as a whole, from what we know about like season 2 in the webcomic.
Yeah, I love how they were subtly showing Charlie's issues with himself and doing it very subtly. So you kind of, when the revelation comes, it won't be a surprise because he's been spiraling.
Yeah, I did not pick up on it the first watch, but then like going back and rewatching it and having read the webcomic at that point, I was like, oh, they are laying the groundwork very early on for that. So I think season 2 is going to be a little bit... I know some people are curious about if they'll be able to do season 2 with the same rating because of that kind of content. But we'll see. I'm curious to see how it all plays out. I think they'll do a really, really, really good job with it. And there's a lot of like heavy emotional acting that comes into play in like the second series of the novel that I'm excited to see.
Be dark.
Yeah, Kit and Joe do.
It's gonna be dark.
Yeah,
I'm scared.
I do imagine some people probably will have issues watching that because it's a really hard trigger for a lot of people.
Hopefully it'll be like accurately trigger warned and stuff like
I know
that.
A lot
I think
of people
if Alice
were
is
afraid.
Involved, it will be. Because I know
a lot of people were afraid for this season that they were gonna put it in there because they knew that they weren't gonna be able to watch that, but obviously they didn't.
I think they made the right decision in kind of keeping this season more light overall.
Everyone who's hasn't read the comics are gonna be so confused about what we're
I don't know. Like, I don't know if we should say like what it is, just so people like know what we're talking about. I guess I'll just like, for those who have not read the webcomics, trigger warning. We can put a trigger warning somewhere. They do kind of divulge in the second series of the comics that Charlie has an eating disorder. So a big part of his character development and a big obstacle in their relationship in the second series of the webcomic is kind of Nick realizing that about Charlie and confronting Charlie with that, and then helping Charlie to come to terms with that and then like be honest with it towards his to his parents and stuff like that. So that's like Charlie's main character arc, I think, in like the second series.
If you like rewatch the first season, you'll notice how Charlie often doesn't eat whenever
he's not
he is
hungry.
Stressed.
Yeah.
So
they're definitely laying the groundwork. But I think that the hints were there, but I appreciate that overall they did kind of keep things lighter in the first season. I think that obviously this heavy topic is a very important thing to address, and it has a place in the media, but I think having something so dark and heavy in the first season would have kind of not undermine is not the right word, because it wouldn't undermine it, but I think it would kind of take away from the overall optimism that a lot of people took away from the first season.
Like dampen spirits.
Yeah, dampen. So I kind of appreciate that. The small hints were there, but they didn't dive headfirst into it yet. So like people kind of have time to prepare and just like enjoy the purity of the first season.
Yeah.
I like that they put Alice in the show too.
Oh, her little cameo was really cute.
That.
Yeah.
It was really cute. And they showed like a behind the scenes of like how she was sitting there sketching Charlie and Nick. That was really cute.
Yeah, they put a lot of like, I noticed that, or I was pointed out in one of the videos that I was watching that like on the bookshelf in Charlie's room. He has some of Alice's other novels that she's written there and stuff like that. So there's definitely a lot of tidbits to her.
Isaac is also reading.
Yeah, he's reading one of their other works. So there's a lot of little like shout outs to Alice, and then obviously the cameo as well was really cute. Yeah.
I mean, we haven't talked about Tara and Darcy yet.
Oh my god.
And they were the highlight for me of like the whole series. Yeah, especially Tara. I really loved seeing her in her turmoil over the way people perceived her after her and Darcy came out. Like, it was so real. If I think about it too hard, it will make me cry. Like, it's all the comments she was receiving on Instagram, like the one you mentioned, like, you're too pretty to be a lesbian.
Yeah.
It's like a shame or whatever. Ugh,
such a waste, it was just, that kind of stuff,
Yeah, it was just done. It was just so realistic. Like, it was done so well. And I feel like they really did a good job with Tara showing how that had a negative effect on her. And just like how people will literally like think that you're a different person after you come out. And like all the dialogue, like we mentioned earlier, the dialogue in this show is just like so, it's like how people actually speak. So I think that helped a lot of the conversation that happened between Tara and Darcy and Nick around their whole situation.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Yeah. One of my favorite scenes, like / chunk of scenes, I guess, was when Nick comes out to Tara and like lets her know that him and Charlie are dating, and then he kind of has that whole like heart to heart with her and Darcy, and like they kind of like lesbian guide him into like, you know, helping him understand like, you know, the implications of coming out. And like we had kind of mentioned before, Tara saying that you don't necessarily need to make it a big announcement and stuff like that. I just think that was like that scene with the three of them, that whole like arc of scenes was like one of my favorites in the series, and I really, really loved it.
Yeah. I also love that, just like go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Also just like them saying the word lesbian and it not being this like taboo or like not being sexualized in the way that society has sexualized it. I really love that. And I really love when Tara was like, I could barely even say the word lesbian like a month ago, because it just, I feel like I rarely see that in LGBT media. And maybe if there was more LGBT media directed at like the teen, young adult demographic, because I feel like there isn't a lot of it. But yeah, at least we have that with Heartstopper.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say I really appreciate that they kind of gave Tara, Darcy, and Elle more prominent roles in the series, because especially like in the webcomic, they don't show up as much until like much later in like the first series and into the second series when they go to Paris. So I thought it was really, 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 really appreciated that they made like the trans character and the two lesbians have a more prominent place, and coincidentally so also like the two black women in the show. Like I was kind of saying before that I really appreciated that Tara was a dark-skinned black woman in a lesbian relationship, because I think I can count on like one hand the number of dark-skinned lesbians that I've seen in media. So like things like that were just like really cool to see as also like a black queer woman. And Elle like also being a black trans woman, like I don't know, I appreciate that they kind of gave them more space and gave their arcs more space in the first season, and kind of really established them as like core characters early on in the series.
I really like how subtle and natural everything was. The subtlety made a huge impact. Like a lot of the time when you think like about queer people, especially if you're straight and you don't know kind of how it quote unquote works. I don't know. You're very ignorant and all that. You cannot, okay, how am I supposed to act? What am I supposed to do? What can I say? What can't I say? So you get like into this spiral of trying to be polite, but it ends up like being you're acting really abnormal towards people. Like,
yeah. You're trying a little bit too hard.
Yeah, you're trying too hard, and just
it's like Imogen with that. I'm not homophobic. I'm an ally. Like that's
right?
how people come off sometimes.
Like that's just so awkward. Don't
Yeah.
treat people like that.
Yeah.
And just how natural Tara and Darcy and Elle and Tao and Isaac and Nick and Charlie, everyone is so just treats everyone like normal people. It's not a big deal, anything of it. It's they're normal people and you treat them as normal people.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I wanted, that made me think that I love where, as opposed to in so many series, you have like the one token gay person in the friend group. We had Tao as like the token straight friend, because I feel like it's so much closer to reality that like queer people congregate together and queer people are friends with each other, and so like it's never realistic when you're watching television and there's only like one stereotypical gay person in the friend group. So like this was so much more
and
real
he's,
to
like,
have
the
like
best friend to the main girl,
the straight woman. So it was like so much realistic to have like a group of queer people, and then like the token straight that's on thin ice, I think is like there's like an audio of that the one token straight friend. I really appreciate
that's
that.
literally my friend group.
Literally.
Oof.
And like how Tao just treats Elle like the girl she is. It's like there's nothing awkward.
There's no turmoil about liking a trans girl or anything like that. Like,
and he doesn't treat her any differently than he did before she transitioned. Like, I really like that.
So good.
Oh my god, yeah.
Nelly.
We have to talk about Nelly. Oh my god, that is the cutest dog I have ever seen in my life. She was adorable. I love that she was always just like on Nick's lap at any given point in the series. She's so precious. Yeah.
I mean they casted her perfectly. Like,
even the dog is cast perfectly.
It's like literal out of the web comic. It's the exact same dog.
Oh my god.
Not me like doing the TikTok filter of which Heartstopper character are you, and Nelly.
No, that made me
Nelly.
laugh. Oh my god.
I was so shocked. I didn't expect to see the dog amongst the characters.
Better Nelly than like Ben or Harry. So.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good one.
Honestly,
that dog was so good. Oh yeah, we need to mention the teacher.
Oh, Mr. Ajayi. I love him.
I love him. Like, he isn't like what I love about him is that he isn't coddling Charlie. He is being supportive, but also pushing him.
Right.
Yeah, kind of like being the guidance that he actually needs, as opposed to, you know, I don't know if babying's the right word, but I think coddling, like you said, is a good term. Like, even knowing that, like, this is a person Charlie confided in when he was bullied, and he probably knows more extensively than most what Charlie has been through. He kind of encourages him to be honest with his feelings and confront the feelings that he doesn't want to confront. And I think he's just like such a good mentor. And that's another thing that's like so true to reality, is that like everyone has that like one, like every queer person has that one teacher in school that they like all gravitate towards. And like a lot of the times it's the English teacher, but the art teacher is also up there. So like him being like Charlie's kind of safe haven. And also I just like, I love that he always had his little pride pin on. I just thought that was so cute. Like, it was,
I really liked how when Charlie was complaining about Ben and he was like, go talk to him. Have you talked to him? Talk to him.
Just be honest with him. He was like, do you want me to tell you to break up with him? Because I feel like that's like, he was like, I feel like that's what you want me to tell you, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I can't make the decisions for
reason.
you. Yeah. No, but I love him. And I know he, spoiler alert, gets a love line in the webcomic. So I hope that they bring that into play. If they do a second season, I would love to see that come to life. It's really cute. So, yeah, I love.
Yes.
Thoughts on the? Oh, I have this soundtrack of this series has been all I have listened to for the past week. I'm not even joking. Like, I had a straight up, not a breakdown, but Netflix had like their own version of the playlist that they put on, and like that's been all I've been listening to on Spotify. And then like the other day I went to go listen to it and Netflix had taken it down for some reason. So I had like a moment of panic because I was like, what am I going to listen to now? Luckily there was already like 30 other playlists that had already been put together of the soundtrack. But like, I just know that like my year wrapped in Spotify this year is going to probably be 90% of the Heartstopper soundtrack, just because I've listened to it so much in the last week alone. It's just so good. It is so good.
Yeah, the
It's
OST, the songs fit the vibe of the show very well.
I feel like it's one of those things where like when I hear certain songs, I am forever gonna think of Heartstopper when I hear that song. Like the Churches song that they use in the scene with Tara and Darcy where they kiss on the dance floor, like I will never not associate that song with Heartstopper anymore. Or I think it's Why Am I Like This, which is the one that's playing when Nick starts to question and types in the Am I Gay in the search bar. Like it's one of those shows where like the soundtrack, I'm forever gonna associate those songs with Heartstopper, and I feel like that's the tell of like a really, really good soundtrack for me. It's just so good. It's so good. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think Heather's like throwing suggestions here in the chat again. Kind of like going back to the keeping it real for like what a teenager actually looks like, in that they have imperfections in their skin and they don't like, airbrush everything away in editing, and you know, they keep kids' freckles and people have blemishes and all that kind of stuff, and I think it just all feeds into the realism of it all.
Yeah, it's the same thing they did with Scum and Young Royals. I feel like it's a very sort of European style, sort of if you bring in Britain and Scandinavia. The style in itself is very reminiscent to that those places.
Yeah, I definitely see that.
Yeah, and it's very noticeable when you are used to watching Asian BLs where they tend to, even it doesn't need to be BLs, shows in Asia tend to have this beauty filter over everything.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, I almost feel like I was traumatized by BL because, I mean, even just with there being no filter thing, but also, like, anytime Nick and Charlie had a misunderstanding, I got anxiety because I expected there to be a really explosive, like, argument where they don't talk. But it never happened because they communicated.
The communication.
I was like, what is this? What is this? There's no fight.
Yeah, even like the argument between like Charlie or Tao, when Tao was mad at Charlie, even that wasn't like dramatic. Like he wasn't just drawn out.
Yeah.
And he was still defending Charlie to everyone who was being mean, but he was just mad at his friend.
Yeah. No, the communication
he
was
got over it.
spot on.
Yeah. They talked about it.
Talking?
Yeah. They talked.
In my television show, it's wild.
Oh
It's
my god.
communication.
Oh, for real. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like there's so many good things I could continue to say about the show, but at the end of the day, it's just like Pixie said at the beginning, I feel like if you're watching this, you have already watched Heartstopper, but like if you have not, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Go
like
do it.
I cannot remember the last time I was like so wholeheartedly like surprised and invested in a show. Like it's been so long. Like there's a lot of shows that I'm enjoying right now, like Kin Porsche and Cutie Pie and a couple others, but I feel like this is just like on a whole different level of how hard it hit me and like really like resonated with me, and I just like cannot recommend it enough.
Yeah. And what makes it even better is like the impact this is having on the community and everywhere. It really shows how you can sort of normalize queerness for people. Like homophobes are gonna be there. Like you can see on Rotten Tomatoes some of the reviews. You can see like either there's like 5 stars or 1 star.
Like
there's no in between.
Oh, God.
But like those are the homophobes, and they're gonna be there. They're useless. But you like the fact that it has 100% fresh score, critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, and a 98% viewer score is really good.
I mean, that's like one of the most
amazing.
already critically acclaimed shows Netflix has put out in years, I think, is like what the numbers are saying. Like it was like number 7 on Netflix last week after it had only been out for 2 days at that, like 3 days at that point. So I can only imagine like what the numbers are gonna look like after it's been out for a full week. Like it's just people are flocking to it, and like, there's definitely a reason for that, because it's just genuinely good content.
Yeah, and it even ended up on the top 10 list in Norwegian Netflix, and I've never seen a gay show on the top 10 list in Norwegian. So that was amazing.
There's definitely been some like comments coming from the cast about how like their career has basically skyrocketed overnight. I was watching this one interview once again that Kit and Joe did on like a British morning show, and how it's like they were here giving this interview on this critically acclaimed show in the morning, and they have to go study for their A-levels in the afternoon kind of thing. So it's like for a lot of them are still in school, first of all, which is like something to get like juggling having this Netflix show that has blown up while also like trying to finish up school. I can imagine is kind of crazy for them, but I think like I feel like you can never really prepare for knowing how well a show is going to be perceived, especially when it's coming out on a platform like Netflix that puts out so much content in such rapid succession. Like you can never know how well it's going to do and if it's really going to take off the way you hope it will. And a lot of shows that get put on Netflix do well, but like not to this level. So like I'm sure that like none of them could have been prepared for the impact, especially with so many of them being completely new actors, you know? Yeah. What do we do after Heartstopper? We rewatch Heartstopper.
I was just gonna say that.
The only thing you can do after Heartstopper.
It's so easy to rewatch it.
I have rewatched it in full twice, but even rewatching just like clips and watching it through reactions and all this stuff, like some of these scenes I've seen probably like 20 times already because they're just so good. So yeah, I will just be rewatching it until
talk about it
until we get a season 2. Yeah. It's the only solution. I mean, if you want like an actual recommendation, I would go read like KCI. KCI put out an article where he's like, there's a lot of parallels between Bad Buddy and Heartstopper. I feel like most people who watch our channel have probably already watched Bad Buddy. So I can't really think of another recommendation that I feel like would truly replace this in terms of like the same feeling and vibe and everything like that. Which is why I'm saying just rewatch Heartstopper instead. Because nothing else is going to give you the same feeling.
Yep. Agreed. Any final thoughts? No?
I feel like I said a lot of what I wanted to say, so.
Yeah. It's just a really good show, very digestible. It hits close to home, but like in a good way. Like we said, it doesn't get too dark this season. So I feel like anyone could watch it really and enjoy it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so please tell us, what did you think about Heartstopper? Did it live up to all of the hype for you? Be sure to share your thoughts with us in the YouTube comments or tag us on any of our social media. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate, review, and follow us on Apple Podcast and Spotify, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Sharing this episode with your friends really help us out. Thanks for joining us for this week's episode, and see you next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Record! Stop stripping!
No.
Oh my gosh.
Pixie stripping on camera. I hope
I had the
the
same
recording
thought
starts.
though.
Yeah, I was like, I
the
need something youthful.
This is not like, I didn't think about wearing this at all. It wasn't planned. This was just
That's
like the
crazy.
t-shirt I was wearing today.
I really hope that the recording starts with Heather screaming, "Stop stripping." I hope that is the first thing that is on the recording.
Because I was yelling at you to stop stripping because it wasn't recording yet. But obviously you couldn't hear.